Hello everyone, Cloaky here doing another draft review. Today we're doing a Diamond Blood draft that ended up winning the tournament, and I just wanted to go over the picks and show you guys how it played out. So pretty clearly here, we're getting started right here, we get the Spearcliff Cloud Knight, which is very strong. It's worth something. It's pretty much an easy pick. It's good for rare drafting, it's good for trying to win. But since we're just talking about strategy here, this guy is clearly the best card in the pick. Very tough to deal with. 3/2 evasion with lifelink. And in this pack, there wasn't much for Diamond, and I think the best card in the pack is probably the Blood Aura here. It's a very good trick, and Lifedrain just helps win games. It's just such a huge swing when you're trying to race. It's good against Volcannon type decks. It's good against decks that try to rush you and get your life total down quickly. It's very good. Its main problem is that it is a buff, and if your troop gets removed, then it's a 2-for-1. There's a Noble Citizenry, which I think is the best pick since we want to try to get Diamond, and this Repel here was good to see. It's looking like Diamond's pretty open. There's nothing else that stands out as a really strong card. I think Repel is the best card in the pack, and it happens to be the shard that we want to go. So I believe I take the Repel here. And it's looking like dwarves were kind of open as well. This pack had a lot of good stuff. A Buccaneer, Inner Conflict, Corpse Fly, Sapper Shards, Blinding Light, Wendigo. Those are all really high level picks. I think I end up taking the Inner Conflict here just to stay in color. I do like the Corpse Fly and the Sapper Shards as well. I think Inner Conflict's a bit better than the Blinding Light. Just to have removal is very important, but Blinding Light's a very strong trick. And then all of a sudden there's a Mentalist over here, which is very late for this guy's, an excellent troop. So I'm thinking maybe Blood's not going to be open. Maybe we're going to be going Diamond Sapphire at this point. So because that was there so late, I went ahead and took that and maybe switch out of Blood. Because all I have for Blood right now is a Blood Aura anyways. In this pack, I think the Wind Whisperer is great. There's no good Sapphire, no good Blood really. And that's the best Diamond card in my opinion. Here we get a Heroic Inspiration, which I love this card. It is really strong. It's one of the main deck archetypes that's becoming more popular now is the Spell Shield, Boulder Brute. People just build decks around Spell Shield troops and just buff them up, and you can't kill those troops with removal. So one of the answers you need to have is something like Heroic Inspiration, so you can block it and then just buff up your own troop and kill their Spell Shield troop. So I love having a Heroic Inspiration when I get one. I took the Shards of Fate there because if I do end up going Blood and Diamond, those are both very threshold-intensive colors. You need a lot of Diamond for Noble Citizenries and Cloud Knights, and you need Blood, double Blood for stuff like the Corpse Fly and Inquisition and stuff like that. Here, I could have taken the Guard Dog or the Ivory Pawn. I think you can pick up Ivory Pawns pretty late. You can pick up Guard Dogs pretty late as well, but I just decided, I don't know, maybe I'll get a Righteous Paladin. I'll take the Ivory Pawn. I don't know. Then all of a sudden there's a Shammed Gladiator, which is pretty late for this guy. He's a pretty good troop. I like giving him Lifedrain in this color combination. So when he comes into play, he does the 2 damage, but you gain it right back if you have the double diamond threshold when you cast him. And then all of a sudden there's a really late Corpse Fly and a Blinding Light. I think the Corpse Fly is a bit better. Even though I'm not 100% sure I'm going Blood, I think because that Corpse Fly is still there, it's a pretty strong side that Blood is open. So I was pretty comfortable taking it over a strong diamond trick, the Blinding Light. Here I take the Witch, which is a fine troop, and the Misfortune, which is most likely not going to be going in the main deck, but a fine sideboard card if they have really strong bombs that are pretty expensive that are usually sitting in their hand until they get the right resources. You can side in a Misfortune to make them discard it. Excuse me. So here we open up a Gigantify, a good card, but I don't think it's worth cutting. I don't usually like to cut in 8-man drafts anyways. I try to pick something for my deck, and then just try to make it so that I get my deck as good as it can, because there's a good chance that I may not be playing whoever ends up getting the Gigantify or whatever it is that I want to cut at the time. So here I'm just trying to look at basically the Forgotten Lord. I think is good, even though I don't like it as much in these color combinations. It's a solid troop. The Mazet Ranger is good as well, and the Banshee is pretty good. Those are all, I think, lower value than the Forgotten Lord. Just the fact that it has Spell Shield is pretty good. Maybe I can put the Blood Aura on it, get him buffed up with the Noble Citizenry and just make him a problem. So I end up taking him. Not too happy about it. It's not not as strong as a card I would have liked to get this early in pack 2. And then for this pack, there's not too much for us. The Blood Aura is really good. And so I was thinking about taking the Blood Aura. Also, I like taking the Captain of the Dragon Guard, but they usually go pretty late, especially when I'm in these color combinations, because I have a lot of buffs with the Blood Auras and the Noble Citizenries that I like to get my troops back with the Captain of the Dragon Guard. But I thought it was a little bit too early to take that guy. I do like the Effigy here. Also, I like having the Artifact troop, and then because he's an Artifact troop, he can block the other troops that have that gem that can't be blocked except by artifacts. Giving him Swiftstrike is really a really good option because a lot of those troops have low defense, like the Mazet Ranger or the Gem Crazed Berserker. So I like having that guy. He's probably not as good as the Blood Aura, but I was kind of low on troops, so I think I take him over the Blood Aura here. And then also I like the Bolt Paw Wizard, but in this color combination, you're not going to have a whole lot of troops to pitch to sacrifice to the Bolt Paw Wizard. I like playing him more in decks where I have like Bertram at least for a 1/1 worker bot that I could just sacrifice, or if I'm running a bunch of Shroom Shaws, stuff like that. Here there's not too much, so I go ahead and take the Reversion. Again, I love Reversion. It gives a lot of decks a lot of problems. It's very cheap. Whenever you can have a trick that can be so effective for just one resource, it can come out of nowhere. People aren't expecting it, and then all of a sudden, you can get a lot of value out of it. And there's so many applications where it's very beneficial to have one. So we got a late Interconflict and a late Shellsafe Sure Shot. Both very happy to pick those up. Here, there's between the Quick Strider, I think, and the Bolt Paw. But if I want to go Sapphire, I'm still trying to decide which colors I'm going to be in. And I don't think the Bolt Paw Wizard or the Quick Strider are that strong. So I took the Mystic there just because I may end up still going Sapphire, and I just want to keep the options open, and that card's way more powerful than the other two options for the Blood. Here there's not much for us, so I go ahead and hate a Boulder Brute. Boulder Brute's a big problem for this deck because it has so much removal. That's the main allure of these color combinations is just control, and you want to be able to kill their things, and if their things have spell shield and you can't kill them, it's a huge problem for this deck, so I just decided to get rid of it. Usually I don't like to cut, like I say, but when there's nothing else for us, I like to go ahead and just get rid of some threat that I know is going to be troublesome for the deck I'm building. Now here, I think the Wailing Banshee is better for the deck, but I think I end up taking the Eulogist, although it doesn't have like any synergy really with the deck. It just is a solid 2-drop early, and I just wanted to have access to early 2-drops just to basically be able to put things on the board if I'm playing heavy aggro decks. And then in this deck, or in this pack here, there's three choices here. The Spearcliff, which I really undervalue this guy. I don't like him that much just because he's a 2/1. That 1 toughness really deters me from taking him. If he was a 2/2, I would have taken him there for sure. But I end up taking the Bolt Paw Wizard just because Reversion is such a great mechanic, and I like having that. Although the 2/2 unblockable guy is also would a fine choice as well. I was happy to see the Sorrow really late. It's going to be really good in my deck. I don't have a whole lot of 1 toughness troops, so I can play that comfortably knowing that I'm not going to have to worry about killing my own troops when I cast it. So at this point it is looking like I am going to be going Blood Diamond. I was hoping to get a little bit more Sapphire because the Mentalist is so strong, but it's just not coming, and the Blood is coming a little bit more. So when we open up that Corrupt Harvester, I pretty much just remove those 2 Sapphire cards and decide to go Blood Diamond for sure. And now this pack is insane. It's got a Righteous Paladin, which I wanted, a Noble Citizenry, a Wind Whisperer, Repel. I want all those cards. I think the best card is probably the Repel here. I am kind of light on troops, but Repel is so good. It's just, it's good early on. It's good late game. It's just good whenever you get it. Righteous Paladin, you kind of need some life gain, and then the Noble Citizenry is better kind of in more aggro type decks. It's good all around, but I think it's just a little bit better in a different deck archetype. So with my deck, I think the Repel is the right pick. We also get another Noble Citizenry and then a Sky'le Griffon. So those are pretty awesome. And then we have a tough pick here between an Interconflict and a Shellsafe Sure Shot. So because I just picked up 3 4-drops, I believe, or 2 4-drops back to back, I was thinking I have a whole lot of 4-drops. I wouldn't mind having some removal. And I do already have 2 Repels and 2 Interconflicts, but there's nothing wrong with having more removal. Removal is always pretty solid unless they have Spell Shield. So I decided to go ahead and take it. If I knew I was going to get another Repel here, then maybe I would have switched and got the Shellsafe because it's just such an effective troop, and it puts 2 troops in the board right away. And so a lot of times it's a 2-for-1 just because they have to deal with one, but the other one still remains. So I like that card advantage there. Here I'm not going to play the Ivory Pawn. I'm not going to play the Eulogist. There's nothing in this deck I'm going to play. And so I decided I'm going to take the Librarian here because I can't kill that with anything in my deck. Like, that guy's a problem. If, like, I'm basically building a control style deck which has answers for their threats. And when they have something like this that I can't deal with that just gives them an extra card a turn, it's going to be hard for me to keep up with the race of just being able to respond to their threats. So I decided to just go ahead and cut that guy. He's very problematic for my deck right now. If I had like some Sapper's Charges or Murders, maybe I wouldn't have taken it, but there was nothing else in the pack, so I decided to go ahead and take it. Here there's a late Wind Whisperer. I wouldn't mind having that Atrophy also, but Wind Whisperer is just a very solid troop, especially in control. You just want to be able to tap down their biggest threat, and then occasionally he can be used offensively to tap down their blockers. So I think he's very versatile, and for 3 resources, he's fine. He is a little bit slow, but when you have 3 repels, you can kind of afford to be a little bit slower because those repels will buy you time in the early game. So we have seen a whole lot of Eulogists. At this point, I'm like, I could just go Eulogist Shroomshot.deck and just have a pretty solid deck, but I don't think it would really be that good. But I think we even passed the Eulogist that we didn't see come back, and so there was probably at least 4 of them we could have had, and all these Shroomshots. It would have been pretty interesting. The Necessary Sacrifice is the best card in the pack. I would probably like the Atrophy more for my deck, but if I go up against a deck that has some kind of transform effects like the Polymorph Dingler, or if they have something like Inner Conflicts of their own, something to stall or mesmerize, I like to side in a Necessary Sacrifice just to sacrifice that troop that is basically valueless anyways, and then get 3 cards out of it. It's very strong. Or side it in the control matchup just to gain that the control mirror match to gain that card advantage to help win. So basically the way this deck wins, I just decided to build it like this, going Zared. I don't need Dimid because I have a bunch of Lifedrain with the Shamed Gladiator, the Corrupt Harvester, the Spearcliff Cloud Knight, and the Blood Aura. So I should be able to maintain a pretty safe life total. So I decided I wanted some more removal. I don't have any atrophies or anything that does like direct damage, so I felt like, you know, having the Zared's good. It works well with the Sorrow too. You can make something -1/-1, and then just go ahead and finish it off with the Sorrow. And then everything else, I think I put the Swiftstrike in the Effigy, which I like the best in this deck, and the Life Gain in the Shamed Gladiator. And I love having the Dragon Guards in this type of deck. Like I said, it's a kind of a slower style deck, so even though the Dragon Guard costs 6, you know, you're just going to be removing a bunch of their things, and then you'll play something like, you know, Corrupt Harvester or Spearcliff that they'll eventually kill, and then because you don't have a whole lot of troops in this deck, that's one of the main problems with it, is you're so heavy in removal and tricks that you don't have a whole lot of troops. So when you do play a good troop, most likely they're going to have removal or an answer of their own. So having something like the Dragon Guard is very important because you can get back that threat that they just used the removal on. And something else I wanted to note is that this deck doesn't have a whole lot of double blood. Usually you have more double blood threshold spells in this type of color combination, but my only 2 double blood threshold things are the Giant Corpsefly and the Corrupt Harvester. So I went ahead and went 9/7 with the 1 Shards of Fate in favor of Diamond because I have so much Diamond threshold. I think a lot of people just go 8/8/1 and just not really consider the fact that you have so much more Diamond. But I think there's a lot of games where I was very happy that I had more Diamond in the deck instead of blood. I think these things, a lot of times people lose decks or lose games because of they don't build their mana base right, or they just don't have a good enough curve or something like that, and then they just blame it on the RNG or something like that. But you really need to consider the fact that, you know, luck is a factor in this game, and you need to build the most consistent deck you have, or you can, and these little choices really add up in the end as far as like the percentage of games you're going to win in the long run. So I think you really got to pay attention to that, and that's one of the reasons I like to draw first so many times, is because of that very thing. You just want to get out of that shard screw, give yourself better odds to draw into what you need, and even though you're sacrificing a little bit of tempo, that card advantage to get to where you need is so important that I think that's why I decided to draw, and this is why I decided to put more Diamond in this deck than just making it an even, you know, go both ways, just so I could try to get to double of either one. I think it's more often than not I'm going to need more Diamond than blood here. Alright, for our first match, we're up against Wyatt, who's a 5 charge power champion that draws a card, and immediately right off the bat he plays Chosen, which is a terrible card for us. That guy we can't really deal with other than a Zared and our Sorrow. So Zared won't happen until turn 4, which is why I played a Blood Shard instead of leading with the Shards of Fate, because I need to get that that guy's my charge power active as soon as I can. So this guy's playing a really rush deck. I mean, he's playing some weird things. Like, I don't like the mill card in there. I don't think that really fits with what he's trying to do. But all of his other cards seem very solid. And I get a pretty slow start here. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of troops. One of the downfalls of playing this type of deck is you're going to usually have a little bit less troops than they do, and you're just going to rely on removal and then play better value troops later on. But in the beginning, you're just going to be kind of removing their troops, and then you'll be left with like bigger threats versus their little things you don't really care about as much. So here I go ahead and reversion his guy, and then Zared it to finish it off. I have his Ronin and his Thunderbird both interconflicted, and now all he's doing is attacking with the 2/2 that mills a card every turn. And he draws a Spectre there and plays a Twisted Fate. So this guy's kind of like a hybrid in between aggro and mill, and I think you just need to pick a strategy. You can't really split up what your deck needs to do. It needs to have a central focus. So even though I'm getting beat here, I still think that that's a flaw with his deck build. He could have, if that Twisted Fate was just any troop that could attack, or if those Battle Hoppers were any troop that could, attack, or maybe if that Spawn was just a better, more aggro troop, I think, I'd be in a lot more trouble. But as it's working for him now, it's just my card draws. I've just been drawing a bunch of shards, and I haven't had enough draws to answer what he's drawn. So this game is not looking good, and I believe I draw another shard, and then I just call it quits and go into game 2. In this matchup, there wasn't a whole lot I wanted to change. I think at the last second I decided to take out the Dragon Guard, but it was after I'd already hit the save, and I think it didn't register it. But the Dragon Guard isn't as good in this matchup. When somebody has something like Twist of Fate or a mill card, it's just a 4/4 for 6 basically, because whatever I put on the top is just going to get milled. Alright, so here we go ahead and keep, and I decided to draw as usual. Even though he's playing a kind of an aggro deck, I still feel with like the repels and the fact that I just want more consistency, I decided to draw for the card advantage. He plays an early Ronin followed by a Windborn Acolyte, and then luckily I do have some repels so I can get rid of some of his stuff here. So I repel the other Ronin, I take a damage from the Acolyte, and then my plan is just to interconflict his Effigy. So now he's just basically pushing through one damage a turn with the Acolyte, which is fine, because next turn I can finish it off with my Zared power. So next turn I can interconflict and basically kill one of his troops. But I decide I'm just going to go ahead and play the Harvester here. I'm not too worried about getting milled. His deck didn't seem too strong with the mill tactic. He just more likely to kill me with damage. So I wanted to get the Corrupt Harvester out just to start gaining some life. I didn't see really any removal from this guy. It was just all troops that are just trying to beat down. And then I decided not to use my Zared power actually, because I was more worried of keeping it for like the Ancestors Chosen or stuff like the Thunderbird. But he has an evolve, so at that point I was like, maybe I should have killed his spawn. But I mean, I don't really care that the spawn mills at all, really. I just, the only reason I would kill it is just to stop some damage, and at that point I wasn't too worried about that one extra damage he's doing a turn because I have the Corrupt Harvester. So even though he played the evolve, I still don't think it was the wrong move to hold the charge. I just think it was just unfortunate that he had the evolve there. But there's another Thunderbird that I can target, which is fine, and I have another interconflict in my hand to stop his other Thunderbird, and then I can also play a either a Wind Whisperer or a Banshee. And I decided to go with the Banshee just to get some more damage. He's at 8, just in case he can answer maybe my my Corrupt Harvester. It's a 4-turn clock for him, and I'm not too worried about taking that 4 damage a turn. I can play the Wind Whisperer and start stalling. So I just swing all in. He doesn't have any cards in hand, which is nice, and I know he's got no tricks, so I play both my guys. And he's at 1 life, and I've got 2 unblockable guys, so that should be it. So I swing in, or before I swing in, I think he just scoops, and we're on to game 3. So as you can see here, when it loads up, I believe, it looks like my Dragon Guard was taken out, but I don't think it saved it. I think the deck was pretty good as it is. I really want to draw the Sorrow against this guy. Like, all of his troops have like one defense, and if I could get that Sorrow out before he gets his evolve out, it's going to be hard for him to come back. But I haven't seen it yet in any of these games. But luckily I still have the Zared to rely on. So I pretty much keep this as is. There's not much I want to change. Everything looks like it's good enough against him. Nothing seems pretty bad. So I decided to just keep it as is. I believe Actually, I think I take out the Forgotten Lord because this guy doesn't have any removal anyways, and I just want to get earlier stuff out. So I think at the very last chance before I submit, I decide to put in a not the Eulogist but the Witch here, because all of his stuff will get killed by the Witch. It looked like if I play a Witch and he still has some troops in his hand, it's just gonna die to the Witch because all of his stuff had 2 or less defense that I saw. And the Steadfast guy isn't going to help me out too much since he doesn't have any removal. The Steadfast is almost pointless, so I'd rather just have an earlier drop. So this hand looks decent. I've got some removal. I do need a double diamond though. Like I said, I was happy I put in more diamond than blood because a lot of my things in my deck require double diamond threshold. And he got a pretty fast start. He's had multiple Ronins, and he's got that spawn guy. Again, I don't really like the spawn guy in his deck, but my plan was to enter conflict. But when I drew this Effigy with Swiftstrike, it basically just shuts down all of his Ronins. Like I haven't seen any growth, I haven't seen any removal, so I thought like that was a better bet to play that than just enter conflict in one of them. So like all 3 of his ground troops right now are just being held off by that one Effigy. But I decided to go ahead and play the Shellsafe instead of Noble Citizenry just to ensure that the ground is going to be stalled up. And now all he's doing is swinging through with that 1/1, which I can kill this turn. So now he's got no offense in the air, and I can start to be aggressive here. So I swing in with the Shellsafe here with the Noble Citizenry with buff on him, and the Turtle Pet to prevent the 3 damage. So now he's like basically this guy's gonna kill him in 4 turns. I was like very surprised to see this Worker Bot Factory. I don't know why that's in his deck or what it's doing there, how it synergizes with anything he has, but it is pretty good for him now because he can at least chump block a guy a turn here. So to spread out the damage, it'd be pointless to put the Citizenry on the Shellsafe just because he could kill it with the removal spell and get a ton of value. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. I decided to spread out the damage. Now there's 2 big threats that I'm pushing through, and even if he uses the Worker Bot Factory once a turn, I'm still going to be getting through some damage. I swing in with all because I have the Reversion in hand, and if he decides to double block my Citizenry, I can revert his Ronin back to a 0/2, basically just making my Reversion keep my Citizenry alive. So I'm basically just trading a Reversion to making it a 2/3 that's just on the board, which is fine. It's good enough because I'm putting on so much pressure. I'd rather have the guy on the board right now. So I revert his guy after he double blocks, and then I kill his Effigy. So now, and he actually chump blocked the other the turtle with the other Ronin. So now all he's left with is a 0/2 Ronin, and I have a pretty good board presence, and he's got the Worker Bot, which is just basically chumping once a turn. So he decides to go ahead and make it main phase, which is, I wouldn't recommend doing that. You need to do it right, like in between, after they declare attackers and before they do, before blockers are declared. So that way I can't do something like this, even though I'm wasting an inner conflict on a stupid Worker Bot that you can just make every turn. I still feel like it's the right play here because if I want to swing in with everybody, and if he does have one resource available. If he does have like a Wild Growth, he'd be able to block with that guy and pump up his Worker Bot to kill my shell shot if he wanted to. So I decided to go ahead and enter conflict, just get some more damage through, just keep putting as much pressure on as I can. And because I enter conflicted him, he goes all the way down to 2. So now I have 4 lethal guys on the board, and it's just going to be so hard for him to come back. I don't know what he could draw here. I mean, even if he puts down like a Birds of Plenty, I'll still just swing through and win. All he has is an Infiltrator Bot. He just puts it down, activates it, and then I just swing with these 2 guys, and he can't block him. So that's it. We get round 1, and we're moving on to round 2. All right, for round 2 here, we're playing against Colin, which is a good player. He's well known in the community. He's actually friends with Corey Jones, and I know he's been around and he knows the game. So I'm interested to see, what he's playing and how he plays it. But he looks like he's playing dwarfs. He got Ruby, Sapphire, and the Worker Bot champion. So I'm a little bit worried, but like I said, I have a whole lot of life gain in my deck. So if I am up against a Volcannon or something like that, there's still potential that I can race. So I just play the Effigy turn 3. He still hasn't played anything, but he does decide to ripple my guy. And since he's playing Ruby, the fact that he rippled my guy instead of just killing it just basically tells me he has no burn in his hand. He doesn't have like a Ruby Lance or anything like that, because that would be better value for him to just go ahead and kill it. So now I can comfortably play my Shellsafe on turn 4, knowing that he doesn't have any burn, so I don't have to worry about him killing off my my Shellsafe before I can activate the turtle pet to prevent the damage. So here I decided to just go ahead and use my champion power on his worker bot, because next turn if he drops in land with those 2 robot slash dwarfs in play, he could play a Terrabot. He also might have another Researcher Adept or something else like a Worker Plan, War Hulk plans to tap. So killing off the robots in a dwarf matchup is pretty important, because they really rely on those things for so many things. So I have no problem, using my champion power on it, even though it does cost me 4 charges to kill something that costed him 3 charges. So he does decide to play a War Hulk plans, and then actually he just stalls out. I think he got disconnected, and unfortunately the game basically just froze over, and he timed out for that game. And then at the sideboard match, or at the end of the sideboarding, it gave me the message that your opponent wasn't online, and it just gave me the win. So sorry for the video. It's not that entertaining. I would have really liked to play him. I know he's a good player, but unfortunately that's how that match ended, and we just go on to the finals. Alright, so for the finals, we're up against Andrew, who is actually a good player that I've played against before. He was in another one of my videos that he gave me trouble. He's a strong player, knows how to play, and makes good decisions. It's actually kind of a tough draft pool, because Colin was in it, even though he disconnected, unfortunately. There was also Zubrin Alpha, who is another very strong player in this pool, and some other names that I recognized. So it's fun to get a chance to draft with all of them. He looks like he's playing a Bertram's type deck too, but he's playing Sapphire Diamond instead of Ruby Sapphire, and it looks like he's just playing the Bertram as kind of like control value, just to put worker bots on the board to block and just kind of stall. And he's got a bunch of turreted walls, which are kind of hard for me to deal with. I don't have any ways to get rid of those. All my removals like repels and inner conflict and tap down with the Wind Whisperer, so those guys are actually really good against me. I was a little bit worried, but the only good thing is I have stuff like this Shammed Gladiator, which gives me some life back, so I don't have to worry about taking the 2 damage a turn as much. But so far it looks like he's playing a pretty solid deck. I know he's getting some card advantage, and I know the cards that he has in his deck can be really effective against my deck style. I was happy to see the Sorrow there. It's pretty good against him once he starts getting out some worker bots and stuff like that. I can clear the board basically of all of his little guys. So I decided to just tap down that guy so he can't double block, and then swing in and gain 4 life. I really needed to gain the life against him. So I was hoping he didn't have like a Mesmerize or Repel or anything like that. And he plays a Buccaneer, which I was actually happy to see. It does stall me for a turn, but when somebody plays something like that, it's just saying that they don't have an answer. But unfortunately, he does have an answer, just in a different way. He bounced it back to my hand and then counterspelled it. So I was kind of disappointed by that, because I really needed the life, but I do have the Captain of the Dragon Guard to get him back later on. So here I think I kind of made a misplay. I was planning on just swinging in with the Citizenry, and then once he blocked with everybody, just kind of like, I can align the damage, so I do 2 to the Buccaneer, 2 to the Researcher Adept, and then finish off his Adept and the Worker Bot with Sorrow. That was my plan, but I don't think it was good enough value to really do that at this point in the game. So, it wasn't like a really bad play, but basically I trade a 4/5 Citizenry here for a Buccaneer, and a Researcher Adept, but not just my Citizenry. I have to also use either a Charge Power or the Sorrow to finish it off. So he just trades a Buccaneer and a Researcher Adept for a Citizenry and a 4/5 Citizenry and one of my other either cards or champion abilities, which I think is it's a better value for him. So I don't like giving up. It was my choice to make that attack, so I kind of gave him the option of getting better value there, which I don't like to do in these type of matchups where it's control versus control, and you kind of need to use your cards as effectively and get the most out of each of them as you can. He decides to attack, and I was still thinking about the last play. I should have repelled there, but I just didn't. I was just trying to contemplate if that was a bad mistake, and not really in the moment at the time. But luckily, I can play the Corrupt Harvester here, tap down a troop, and still have enough resources available to just repel the other one. But that 2 damage that I missed could end up costing me, because of the fact that he has those turreted walls just doing 2 damage a turn to me. And if he has answers for my Lifedrain guys, that's just basically one turn that I gave him for not repelling that one chance I had. So that could be a costly mistake, but we'll see. He plays alright, he only has 2 worker bots and a turreted wall, so I decided to go ahead and attack in. I could Sorrow beforehand and clear the board of all those 1/1s, but it would also shrink my guy down to 2/2, so I just figured He can't really do much, so I'd go ahead and swing in. But to my surprise, he has a Bravery, which a lot of people don't like Bravery, but I'm liking it more and more. Again, like I always say, I love cheap tricks, like the just one cost, very effective. Like there, he had a bunch of resources open, so he could have done something bigger. But there's a lot of times we'll just have one resource open, and people will expect to be doing a trade, or maybe they'll survival of the fittest a guy, and you can just like buff up your guy +1/+1. And the survival won't even kill your guy, or the burn won't kill your guy. I mean, there's so many circumstances where it's good, but there's a lot of times where all it is it's just a 1/1/1. But I still think it's a fine trick, and people probably undervalue it. Just cheap tricks in general can be really effective. So I decided to get back my Shamed Gladiator instead of the Harvester with the Dragon Guard, just because it'll be a 5/5. And now that he has that 1/6 turreted wall, I want to be able to swing in, and if he blocks it, finish it off with either the Sorrow or my Zared ability. And he Buccaneers it again, which is fine with me. Usually that would be a really big pain, because you take 2 damage every time you play him, but since he has the Lifedrain in him, every time he comes into play, he does that 2 damage, but I just gain it right back. So I decided to swing in, and he actually chump blocks, which I was kind of surprised to see him chump block this early, but it's not the worst play. It's just I was happy to see that thing get off the field, just because I was kind of worried about him having a Volcannon, and that's one less dwarf artifact on the board. He doesn't have any others now, so I was a little bit relieved to see that Gearsmith die. So I decided to swing back in, still hoping he doesn't have any repels. I really need to gain the life here. I'm getting low. I'm at 8. I'm taking 2 damage a turn. I'm on a 4-turn clock. I really need him to not have an answer for this Lifedrain guy. If he has a repeller or something for it to kill it, I'm going to be in a pretty bad situation. So he plays a Blinding Light, which stalls. I don't get to gain the life, which I was disappointed about, but it's only a 1-turn stall. I still have the guy on the board. He's still a threat, and because he played that, it lets me know that he doesn't have a repel or something else to kill my guy, because he would have just killed him instead. So I play both these guys, and then it's still looking pretty good. I'm looking through his graveyard. I like to see, just refresh my memory when I think the game's about to be over either way. I like to go back and just re-jog my memory as far as to what tricks they had and what they've played, so that way I can be mentally prepared for them in the following games. So against this guy, he's playing, robot control. I consider putting in the Ivory Pawns, just, because basically it counters his turreted wall. Every turn I gain a life, and every turn he does a damage, so it's just like a push. But I decided with all the life gain, I can just, I don't have to worry about him that much. The Swiftstrike wasn't as effective in this matchup, so I switched that over to Lifedrain as well, just to have another thing. So if he's blocking it with the turreted walls, at least I'm gaining 2 life a turn. And then everything else looked pretty solid. I don't think there's anything else I really needed to put in. I was considering taking out the Banshee too, because he has all those artifacts that it's not that effective against him. But since I have two Noble Citizenries, I could buff up the Banshee, make him a 4/4. If he blocks with the turreted wall, finish it off with the Zared. So I decided to keep the Banshee in, and then we're off to game 2. So game 2, I draw. He decides to play, which I was happy about. I thought he might draw, because it's drawing in this matchup is for sure an advantage. And I don't have any blood, unfortunately. I was relieved I didn't have any blood casting cost things in my hand, really double blood, but I did draw a Giant's Corpse Fly. So now I really need to get some blood, but I still have other things to cast, so it's no big hurry, and he isn't the type of deck that applies a lot of pressure early, so he's going to give me time to draw into the blood. So he plays a Gearsmith. He misses. That's the second time he missed with the Gearsmith, so the RNG's been in our favor this game as far as Gearsmiths go. So I decided to just go ahead and play the Sky'le Griffon, and I don't use the Zared ability just because I like to use it for more effective things. I don't want to just kill something off. He's not playing really, really heavy robots. If he was, I'd probably use it. If he had a bunch of Terrorbots and Warhulk plans, but I think he's just more playing control. So I don't decide to do it. And then he swings it with this Gearsmith. So I was really concerned or wondering what he was doing. I was thinking maybe he had Polymorph Dingler. He just wanted me to block, and then he was going to dingle my guy and then be an 0-1, and then my guy would die. But he had an Angelic Ascension, which is a really good use of this card. Swing in after they block. It's kind of like a growth spell. Just turn your Gearsmith or some guy that you don't care that much about into a big 4/4 flyer, and then on top of that get extra value out of it by killing a guy that they're not expecting to die. So I thought that was really well played, and but I was still okay with it since I have a Wind Whisperer in play, and I can just tap it down. So I decided to tap one of his guys, or use his Zared on a worker bot, and then just play my Wailing Banshee. I hadn't seen any repels yet, but he does have one, so he gets a lot of value there. He basically kills my buffed up guy, and now all I have is my Wind Whisperer and my Citizenry on board, but he still isn't playing a whole bunch of threats, so I decided to just go ahead and swing in. Now, unless he has removal for this guy, I'm still thinking, at least I can push through 2 damage a turn. But then he blocks here with the worker bot, and he has another Angelic Ascension. So, based off this game alone, these cards have gained a lot of value. Or, I didn't value them as highly as I do now because of the way he's been using those. So it was a very effective way to use it with the Worker Bot Champion and, just little troops like Gearsmith. So I thought that was pretty clever, and, I gained a little bit more respect for him. Not that I have a huge chance or opportunity to get a lot of these cards because they are uncommon, but, I'm going to keep an eye out for him a little bit more, and I like tricky stuff like that. It's just more fun to play with, and a lot of times you can get a lot of value out of them. So here, I only had one resource open. I decided not to tap down his Angel. I wanted to block and then Heroic Inspiration to finish it off, because I'm going to be most likely swinging with my Corpse Fly now, because I'm going to be tapping down his guy and I'm going to be attacking. So I decided to go ahead and block and then kill it, because now I'm not going to have anything untapped to block with and kill for a little while. So I thought it was a better use of the removal, and then I still had the Wind Whisperer available to tap down any other threats. So I put the a Blood Aura on this guy, really hoping he doesn't have any responses, but he hadn't killed anything before. Even if he had a bounce spell, it wouldn't be the worst, because I can cast it back out and get him to discard his last card in his hand. But he just basically passes the turn and then draws a card, and I guess he doesn't draw another removal, and he's too worried about the 3/2 Lifedrain in the air. So I think he just decides to scoop, and that's the tournament. So it's pretty fun matchups. I really like playing against Andrew. He's a good player. We usually have some good, tough matches together. But unfortunately, Colin disconnected, and we only got to really go over 2 matches. But I think the deck was pretty solid. No really big bombs other than the Spearcliff, but I don't even know if I ever drew them. Maybe once. But it's Blood Diamond Control is a very solid archetype. You just basically play really good removal spells, and then just try to play good troops, good value troops. You don't have to play really early troops or anything like that because of things like Repel. So I like the deck, and it turned out well, and we got the win. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.